All right, so this is the second video, so hopefully you've already watched the first. In this video, we now can move on to methods because we've already talked about our standards, our objectives, and our evaluations. So now we can really kind of get into the lesson plan. I'm still going to skip the grouping part because I think really you might want to come back to that once you start getting into the lesson. So the methods and the activities in the procedure are really, the activities in the procedure are really the parts where you describe what's happening, like step by step. Here, I already know kind of what I'm thinking, so I'm gonna tell you that my class is gonna do, I just already typed this in so you didn't have to watch me slowly type and misspell words. So I want my students to do collaborative work. In this, they're also going to do discussion. And then we're going to do an activity, which is a concept development activity. We have done this in class. You may not know what that means, but that is a particular activity we're going to do. You might use methods like have experiments in your class. You maybe do some role play. You might also have independent practice in your class. This lesson's not going to have any independent practice really. You may use lecture, but I will tell you, I'm not going to think lecture is a very good lesson. If you're giving directions for like 5 minutes, that's okay. That's directions. Or if you're modeling something, maybe in PE, you might model how to shoot a layup. That's not a lecture, that's modeling. A lecture would be like if you talk for like 20 or 30 minutes and the students aren't allowed to ask questions. And it's really just you talking. That's not going to keep your students very engaged. As a college student, you learn to really deal with lectures a lot more, but your students are not going to be engaged. So I would say no to lecture. I don't want to see that as an option because I don't think that's going to really be the most effective way to teach your students. Then down here, it's asking why you're choosing it. I'm going to say working in small groups and having discussion will help students activate their prior knowledge. This is at the beginning of a lesson, so that's going to help them think about their prior knowledge they have about quadrilaterals. They're going to hear some different vocabulary. And the concept development model is very useful when trying to classify and find similarities and differences among parts of a concept, which is what we're trying to do. So that makes sense. So I just kind of explained that. Doesn't take too much space. Then activities and procedures, I'm going to come down here. This is where you do a play-by-play, step-by-step. There needs to be a lot of description here. This is the part where another teacher should be able to replicate it. I should be able to take this, or if you're going to teach PE, one of your PE teaching peers should be able to see this lesson plan and know what's happening. So you need to give enough detail. If you just say, oh, we're going to do a concept development activity, you're like, I have no idea what that means. You need to be able to give enough detail that I can handle it. And then also kind of the time allocated. You need to be planning the time here. Think also about transitions and moving from one thing to the next and making sure that you're using time wisely. Now, my students are going to begin with a bell ringer. Maybe yours will too. I don't know, but I'm going to put that into my lesson plan because for me as classroom management, it's really important for me to know what's happening at the beginning of your class. So if your students are going to do something, students will complete bell ringer in their journals. Okay, then I know that you're using time wisely. Maybe they're going to do something else. Maybe they're going to grade their own homework at the beginning of the class. I don't know, but whatever it needs to do. That's not really part of the lesson yet, but that's going to be there. Then grade previous night's homework. That's our next step. So students will use a pen to grade their own work. Answers will be posted on the board. Students can ask questions about homework during this time. All right. So I know that that's the next thing that we do. I post the answers. That information is there. Someone else could replicate that. Then each group will get a set of quadrilateral cards. Now notice here, I didn't tell you how my students were getting into groups. That might be important. So maybe I need to come in here and add, the students will be assigned groups and by numbering off maybe. And then students will move to the group of desk with their number. With maybe their corresponding number. Notice this is, I'm anticipating a problem here. Like knowing, okay, I can label table 1, table 2, table 3, so students will know. I'm anticipating that problem of where they need to go. That's not going to take 4 minutes. That needs to go down here. This is going to take maybe 1 minute. Okay. And then each group will get a set of quadrilateral cards. Students will categorize. So I'm like writing what's happening here. 4 minutes. And then each group will share their categories with the class. Again, I'm sharing. This is not complete. This is not all. I'm not going to write the entire lesson. But my next step, I would come down here and say, okay, students will then, or groups, each group will then reevaluate their categories and either add one more category or combine categories. Okay, so I'm adding my next step here. So that would be the next step. That would probably take like 3 minutes. So you notice, and I would just keep going until I've got all my steps. So that's going to have quite a few more steps. But then down here, like I'm going to maybe have 3 or 4 more steps. And then I would say, maybe I know it's almost time to go. I haven't even added up my numbers here. But think when you're adding up your numbers, that should, if you're doing a 45-minute lesson, that should add up to 45 minutes. If you're doing a 50-minute lesson or an hour and a half, like you should know what your time period is. And I would choose the time period of the school that you're observing. What are the length of their lessons? So I'm going to have all these other steps that I'm just like, la, 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 have those steps. But then down here, then I would say students will independently complete the exit slip, in which they have to classify ... And I would, if I was turning this in, I would write the entire thing. But I think you understand what I mean by this, so I don't need to do this anymore. So let me go down here, and I would say that that probably takes about 3 minutes. A little. And then I will say, maybe even students will hand me their exit slip on their way out of class. I will stand by door. That may seem ridiculous that needs to be in your lesson plan, but remember, I'm evaluating you. So, like, they don't have to turn it in, hand it to you, but that just lets me know one other thing. Oh, okay, you're thinking about how they're going to turn this in. You're thinking about the transitions, how they're going to get out of classroom. That's going to save them time and get them in and out of the classroom. Hopefully that is helpful. Okay, so then I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go to materials. So I'm thinking, what materials do I need for this? Well, one, I need sets of quadrilaterals printed on cardstock. Each set will be a different color. Now this is really important to me because I make them different colors, so that way if one kid drops one, I know that goes with the blue group. Or you could also number the back of each set is another way. So that's, I need that. I need answer key posted on projector. And perhaps I also need bell ringer posted on whiteboard. Okay, so maybe those are the things I need. You might have a lot more materials in PE, like what are you using footballs that day? Are you using hula hoops? In history, maybe you're using some textbooks. In music, do your students need any sheet music or instruments? Like those things would be there. And these are resources needed both by the student and the teacher. Then why have you chosen these materials? Students, well, and you don't want to just say when they're using it. Obviously, let's see, the printed cardstock, printing quadrilaterals will help students see the similarities and differences rather than just using words to describe. All right, so that may be one reason that I have that. I'm also going to say they will be printed on different colors in case one card gets separated from its group. And also another word I can't spell, separated. And then here, like if I was also going to use, I mean, I could, the answer key, that probably doesn't really need why I chose a material. I'm trying to think what other materials I might have had in here. If you're using a PowerPoint, if you're using a video, explain why you're using that video or why you're using that book. So then that's there. And then, okay, now we're 11 minutes. I'm going to come back and I'll do grouping and differentiation in the next video.